Well, hello there. Welcome back to another thrilling instalment of the FPL Show on the GallowgateShots YouTube channel. I am Matthew, and I'm joined again, as always, by my lovely, lovely host, Dan. How we doing, mate? You okay?
I'm spot on, mate. How are you?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm superb. I think we've got like just over a week left before actual Premier League football comes back. And obviously we've got the inaugural, and I said inaugural. That's not right.
That's not a real word,
Inaugural.
Matt.
That's not. Trying to be clever and saying clever words. Inaugural Seller Cup, which has had loads and loads of push from our club, hasn't it? It's like wall-to-wall adverts.
It needs to be when you can't sell any tickets.
Is that right? I don't know what the ticket situation is.
Not well. I think we're talking about the other night. They're not opening up the upper stands in the stadium. They've been really desperate to try and flog tickets, but obviously, again, as much smarter people than I have already alluded to, it's just a bit daft trying to flog tickets for this event. I think it opened up like literally a week after they took the Champions League money from season ticket holders. And then now as the event's coming up, I think the remaining £110 or whatever it is for the season tickets are coming. And then you've got obviously the new season starting. So people are having to save up potentially up to £74 for a ticket there. So it's one of those where people have to budget. People can only afford so many things. In the Cellar Cups, you're not going out with the lads, are you, to the Cellar Cup, having a few jars in the Three Bulls or out like that. It's a family event, so you're going to be taking the kids. You might take your partner, whatever. And I think it's 30 quid a go or something. So you're looking at hundreds, over £100 for a family of four. And I get it. I think it'd be a really good day out. Obviously, I think they're integrating it with the women's football as well, as far as I'm aware, which I think is fantastic. Plus, you get to see some of the teams go. So I think if you're not going to go to any of the future games, I think it's good. I think it's a really good opportunity to see the team, support the team. But generally, I just think it's been a little bit of a struggle for like the diehard Newcastle fans to warrant affording it, and especially when some of us live month by month, and when they're just taking out Champions League money, etc. I just think it's a bit of a stretch. So yeah, I think that's why they've been pushing it so hard. Just bad timing, terrible on this sort of side of things. Newcastle still.
Yeah, it does seem a little bit iffy, and obviously the communications from the club, they've had to rethink certain things this week. I know that. Welcome to the Cellar Cup Show on the GallowgateShots YouTube channel. So yeah, we'll go kind of straight into it. We do have a FPL league set up for kind of everybody who watches anything to do with GallowgateShots and subscribes and all that jazz. The code is OPB. That code should be along the bottom of the screen now if Scott does his job properly. And yeah, so if you want to join in, have a bit of a laugh, try and beat us, who seem to try and think try and make it out as if we know what we're talking about. That would be all fun and games. Hopefully we do better than last week and don't get beat by as many people. But we'll just see how it goes there. So this week we're going to be talking about forwards, Dan. We have done a few episodes recently. We talked about midfielders last week. If you haven't looked at that, please check it out. We looked at the likes of Salah, Saka, Bruno, Rashford, all those like obviously top quality players that you might want to be signing, as well as obviously I think we might touch slightly on Harvey Barnes and any potential Newcastle players. However, we do look at them in a bit more detail in the Newcastle episode, which has now pushed past 1,000 viewers, which is absolutely class. And we also touched on goalkeepers and defenders from other clubs as well. So check out all those episodes if you want to have a little look at that. But should we start off with the big, fat, obvious Erling Haaland?
Yes.
I mean, we'll keep it brief. Are you having him in your team?
No.
End of episode. Goodbye. See you next week. Ta-ra.
Yes, he is 86.6% owned. Not to call him out, but Dan Snowden claims he is not going to have him in his team. He's not going to start with Haaland.
Oh, lovely.
Out of that. So he's one of the 13.4% that won't be going with him. I assumed that anyone that didn't have him had just did an auto team and just haven't looked at it yet. That's what I figured these people would be. But no, apparently some people are going to go without him. Arguments to go without him is if you are playing risky, if you really do think he's going to struggle at the start of the season. I couldn't think of anything worse than not go with him.
Just to kind of build on that, like the only way that I can see it is if you're looking at that Bournemouth fixture and you think, I want Salah and I'm going to captain Salah in game week 2, and maybe having a Salah Kane double up potentially, but even then that's wildly like audacious.
Yes.
Like, why do that to yourself? I can speak on behalf of anybody who went without Haaland because he ruined me all season last year. Don't do it. Don't go without him. Don't be that 13.4% of foolish people who currently don't have him in your team because you're just asking for pain. And on that note, let's just move on. You might mean 36 goals, 8 assists in 35 games.
A lot of them he was subbed off after like 65 minutes. Some of them he was subbed off in that time.
Yeah, honestly, man, just don't do it to yourself. Essentially, you need to be thinking about what are the other 10 players going to look like that you're going to be starting with in game week 1 to be different or change from the rest of the pack. One way that people are going to be different now, they've been forced into it, is Jesus is injured. We'll talk about him in a sec, though, because we want to talk quickly about Kane if we're going to go down price points. So Kane, 12.5%. Is he going to stay? And if he does, is he going to make your team?
He's not going to make my team. The reason he's not going to make my team is purely for price. But that's only so far. Like, I kind of want to see how everyone else does. Harry Kane is going to get you points. It's just an absolute matter of fact. He is going to get you points. It's just the fact that he's 12.5 million, and I'm probably going to captain him a few times in the season when Haaland has a bit of a stinker away from home, maybe. I think Tottenham are going to be very attacking this year. It looks like they've got Maddison playing really well in the 10. They're going to play just a box standard 4-2-3-1. Nothing crazy. Son and Kulusevski really far out wide. Maddison in the hole. Giovanni Lo Celso's actually played quite well pre-season. And then Harry Kane up front. They're going to create chances for him. He is going to score goals, especially with Maddison in the team. And I think when I'm on my wild card, I'm going to bring him in. So I'm thinking about wild carding around match day 8. At around then he's got Luton, Fulham, Palace, Chelsea, Wolves, Villa, then Man City, but then West Ham, then us, then Forest, Everton. To be fair, his start isn't bad from match day 3. So Brentford away, Man United home isn't very nice. Then Bournemouth away, Burnley away, Sheffield United home are good, but then Arsenal away, Liverpool away. So really, for your early wildcarders out there, he has 3 good fixtures and 4 not very nice fixtures. I'd say 4 outright bad fixtures, actually. So that's the reason why 12.5 million, when I can have Man United midfielders, etc., etc. I think I'm going to do really well. I'm not going to captain him probably in those games. So Sheffield United at home does look a very nice game to captain Harry Kane. I think if you wanted to sort of potentially shield against him, you could go for a Maddison or something like that. But he's just a pretty penny. When the season gets going, I think I finished last year when I finished strongly. I had Haaland and Kane up front, and he just scores points when other players go missing. He scores points. To answer your first question, I'm 50-50 on whether he's going to stay or not, because I still think Bayern Munich are a little way out on their evaluation. But they have just sold Lucas Hernandez for like 56 million to PSG. So if they can amortize that with Harry Kane, it's just his wages are going to be monstrous. I think they might need one more player out the door. I don't know if Mane is left yet, but I imagine Harry Kane and Mane's wages aren't too dissimilar. When Mane was on free, was Mane on a free? Actually, they signed him. No, they signed him, didn't they?
They signed him. That's a good point, though. I forgot about Mane and how much money they'd be getting for him, and obviously the wages off the books. It's a good point.
So yeah, I don't know whether he's going to be there in the first place, but I mean, I really want him to go. I really, really want him to go. It's a headache less for us. Might not break Shearer's record. He's straight at me Champions League team when that game starts. He's playing up front for Bayern. But yeah, if I could not speak against people that had him in their team, though. Like, he's a proven point scorer. If you're happy to sacrifice elsewhere in your team because he's a premium, I get that. I'd rather have Kane in my team than Salah, I think. But
see, that's interesting that you say that, because I was going to mention that, because I think a lot of the conversation's been around trying to fit in Haaland, Salah, Trent, or which we've kind of figured out now, or most of us have. That's to huge detriment of the rest of your team. But I think Salah's around about 20% owned, 25% owned, whereas Kane's sitting at about 11.8% owned. Now, Kane got 30 goals and 3 assists last year, whereas you look at Salah, he got 19 goals and 12 assists. So only a few less attack and returns. But in regards to points, because of obviously the amount of points you get for a goal, Kane far outperformed him.
In terms of bonus.
In terms of bonus as well. And it's interesting that people are trying to squeeze in Salah and Haaland rather than trying to squeeze in Haaland and Kane, especially with the situation we're now in with Jesus.
Yeah.
The more that we're talking about, literally the words are coming out of my mouth and my brain's ticking over thinking, I've got Salah in my team, why haven't I got Kane instead?
Yeah. I think for you personally, Matt, I don't know when you're wildcarding. You're a really early wildcarder, aren't you? Generally.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to try and hold out for about game week 5, because I think that's when a lot of the fixture swings are, to be honest.
If you could hold out till 6. No, yeah, actually 5, whenever. I don't know. Hold out till 5. If you held out till... If you went for an early bottle job where you've changed it in 3, which is what you normally do.
As always,
then I'd say start with Salah for his first 2 fixtures, Chelsea and Bournemouth, opposed to Brentford and Man United. If you want to wildcard in 3 with your itchy fingers, then wildcard Kane, and then, because, yeah, fair enough, he can still score against Arsenal and Liverpool, but then he's got, Bournemouth, Burnley, Sheffield United, Luton, Fulham, Palace. They're so good. So, yeah, if you go for your trigger finger, then, yeah, I'd start with Salah. If you're going to wait longer, then if you want Harry Kane and you need him from 3, basically. That's just, unless you're going to cover him with Son, who's been very wide in pre-season, Maddison, who's been very good.
I think it's all very much relative, obviously, to whether he stays or not. If he's here game week 1, then I think a decision needs to be made. But until then, we'll just kind of wait and see and shrug our shoulders. Yeah. So, mention Jesus, he's injured.
Yeah.
Very, very bad news for Arsenal fans. But good news in regards to breaking the template a little bit, because 30% owned he was on Wednesday. Now dropped down to 20%.
Yeah, I'm gutted. Because I never considered him a team at all. Not I don't really rate him as a finisher. I think he's a good player. I think he's better as a right winger. I don't think he's a great striker. And loads of people are going to have him in, and I just don't think he was going to score very many goals. Also, when he plays, he starts centrally and drifts off to the left. And Martinelli is the one that ends up in the 9 from out wide. And it just really suits Martinelli.
Yeah.
So Martinelli was a better asset than when Nketiah's there, because Nketiah doesn't kind of do that. Nketiah likes to play in the box. Now, people may think, let's go for Nketiah. Nketiah's much cheaper, so you can end up spreading the funds elsewhere. Nketiah's also just a worse player in every aspect than all of the other Arsenal midfielders. In terms of finishing, if they were all in the box with a shot at goal, Trossard, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, and Nketiah, the 5 of them, and I'd bet my mortgage on them scoring, Nketiah'd be the last one I'd bet on.
It's interesting, though, that we've went straight to Nketiah, but we're forgetting that they've now got Havertz as well, who can play as a false 9.
Maybe. I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know who's...
Yeah.
But Trossard could play up there. Trossard played there last season, but Martinelli can also play in the 9. So they've got Trossard, Havertz, Nketiah, and Martinelli. All of them can play up front. I just totally stay away from Nketiah. I just don't think Havertz is great. Havertz can play up there. I still don't think he's going to score. So I just think basically what it means is Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard, pick your poison between them and just be done with it. I'll stand by my point from last week. I really like Trossard as a pick, and this only helps strengthen it because there's one less play. But that is a punty pick, and you can't have too many of them. I think you starting the season have 2 punts, and that would be one massive one. But I'm personally not going for him. I just like the idea.
I couldn't do that. I think you've got to have 3 Arsenal. I think because of their opening 3 fixtures, at least one defender is probably going to be Gabriel. Then the other 2 is essentially, like you say, pick your poison. If it was up to me, like I've got in my team now, it would be Martinelli and Saka. I do see a few people going for Odegaard, but I think that striker slot doesn't belong to an Arsenal player now. I just don't think we look at Nketiah. So in terms of replacements,
yes.
In terms of this, if you're playing with 2, say for example, 2 strikers already, and you've got that kind of structure in your team nailed, you're looking at maybe doing a straight swap to somebody around about the same price. You're looking at either Watkins or Wilson at 8 million, or to save yourself 5 million and spend it elsewhere, you could be going to the likes of Darwin, Gakpo, or Isak.
Or
Nkunku, who's now been injured.
I've
heard
that
a slight knock.
He's yellow flagged. So let's start with the 2-8s.
Right.
So Callum Wilson, is Isak not first choice for us?
I was thinking this because I don't think he's going to play out wide anymore. We've got too many wide players, and I don't think, although he did amazingly well, like particularly against Everton, where he demolished the entire team.
He played up anyway, and he just came off the left.
Yeah, so it's I don't think
not a good left winger.
No,
when he started games at left wing, he wasn't very good. He's class up front though. He's absolutely unbelievable up front. Just him there. Yeah. So
him, Harvey Barnes, and Gordon
Anderson
playing together.
Anderson, Joe Linton left wing. Like
we've got a tasty little team, by the way.
Yeah.
Just saying. Like
love it.
The fact that we're talking here thinking, is Wilson going to fit in the team at 8 million? And he's a bit of a minutes risk now.
Yeah.
Is canny mental. So I think we can chalk off Wilson, even though we got like his best ever goals return. His injury scares are always a concern, I think, for me. So many times
I've had me anymore. I don't think he's going to get injured because he's not getting overplayed like he historically has been. And also, when he used to play and get injured a lot, he had that one really bad injury at Bournemouth, which it was just a shocking injury. It was a one-off bad one. But his niggles for us, I definitely think some of them were personal problems in his life, certain rumours going around, but how he played at the World Cup and stuff like that as well. But a lot of them were niggles, which I think were from being not fit under Bruce. None of our players were fit. After 60 minutes, we're just all dead, except for Maxi. But then he'd get injured because of it. And now that we are fit, and now that Wilson's minutes are always going to be managed with Isak, I don't think he's going to be an injury risk anymore. I actually think I think he'll outscore Isak at the beginning of the season because he's going to get brought on after 60, 70 minutes and he'll just put one in the net out of pure rage. He did it so many times last year. But
he did.
But if he got one goal in a game after coming off the bench, it's 5 points. I don't. Why am I paying 8 million for 5 points a week-ish? Like, it's not happening. He's not getting 38 goals. So I'd say avoid Wilson.
With Watkins, he's sitting at 17.5% owned. Yes. Has us first away, but he seems to all of a sudden really enjoy playing against us, rather frustratingly. Then Everton at home, which is a fantastic fixture, and then Burnley away. Now, I've noticed in pre-season, Moussa Diaby has been playing essentially as like a second striker in their setup. Is he going to benefit from Diaby causing a bit of mayhem and being a bit of a poacher? Or is he going to be the person who's going to be essentially assisting Diaby because of his movement? Like it's going to be an interesting one. It's a different dynamic that we've not seen from Villa now. I just don't see the appeal for Watkins. I think he's so streaky that I just don't see the appeal at 8 million. If he was 7.5 or 7 million still, potentially. But he's not for me.
I think he's going to be a really good pick. He's not for me at the beginning of the season. Just I've got my sort of strikers. I've got what I want in my head all sorted, basically, to a degree. We'll see. We'll see how the Community Shield goes. But you're right. It's just from game week 8, match day 8, whatever it's called. Wolves away, West Ham at home, Luton at home, Forest away, Fulham at home, Spurs who've got any defenders away. Actually, they've got a million defenders, just none of them are very good. And then Bournemouth away for that run. I feel like Watkins or Diaby, once we've understood who's getting in the goals, who's getting the assist, whether you need to double up, I think that wild card in 8 looks absolutely magic. I really do. Or in 9, because Wolves away might actually be tricky with it being a bit of a local derby.
Nobody cares about that, though. Like
They do, though. Wolves
like
do.
That's like a local derby off Wish. Isn't it?
It's like if Sunderland could play themselves.
It's like Crystal Palace and Brighton. Like, who cares?
Aye. Well, unfortunately for games, they care because that'll be 0-0 or 1-1. That'll be a shit game of football. That. So I personally think Watkins is going to be a great pick. I just think we need to pick our moments. I'm not sure if it's going to be at the beginning of the season because you're right. Diaby could get the goals. Buendia looks lively, really lively in pre-season as well. 8 million. It's a wait and see. However, if someone went, I've got Watkins as my second striker next to Haaland, no complaints either. I think that's a very, very reasonable pick for the fixtures that they've got. Yeah.
I agree. So on to Darwin and Gakpo, who are both forwards. I was surprised that Gakpo was labelled as a forward this year. I think he's going to be playing in a bit of a deeper 10 role this year.
Well,
and Darwin could be gold, I think.
Well, he played as a forward for the second half of last season. Basically, when they signed him, he played as the striker, so I think he had to be a forward. I'd have liked it if he was a midfielder again, because that would have been dynamite. Darwin and Gakpo, don't know which one's going to play. I honestly think Gakpo is going to be the one to start and Darwin's going to come off the bench.
I'm shocked at that because I disagree. I think it's the other way.
Gakpo started against Bayern. The team that started against Bayern looks like it's going to be the team that would start the season for them.
Right. Okay.
Maybe Matip and Konate might swap out because Matip started. But other than that, it was like Szoboszlai, McAllister, Curtis Jones, centre mids, Salah, Gakpo, Jota. It was Trent, Matip, Van Dijk, Robertson, Alisson. It was just like, this is going to be my starting team. But that's how I felt. Nunes came off the bench. Gakpo scored within 2 minutes.
Right.
Within 2 minutes, he scored. And he was miles better than Darwin Nunes last year. He just doesn't run round with such a hot head. He's not like his... I don't know. It's not like he's got like flashing lights on his head. He's like a really active player. I just think he's very, very intelligent with his movement. And he's defensively miles better than Nunes. And we know that Klopp is all about defensive forwards. I think Gakpo suits the Firmino role more than Nunes. I don't disagree. If Darwin is the one getting a run of games, you just have to get him in your team. Because I know he missed some chances last year, but from what I've heard from Scousers, he's looking calmer during pre-season. He looks a little bit more composed. The opening games I just don't like Chelsea away isn't great. Bournemouth at home is. But then us away, Villa at home. From 5, it gets better. Wolves away, West Ham at home, Spurs away, Brighton away, but then Everton, Forest, Luton, Brentford, Man City, but then Fulham, Sheffield, and Palace. So like from 9, where you get that Everton run, that's where I think we'll know what Liverpool's team is. All of the second string will get games in the UEFA Cup, Europa League, whatever they're in this year. So that I don't think we're going to suffer Premier League rotation too much. So I just think that a lot of play there because they're well-trusted, world-class players. We'll know what the team is by then, wildcard them in. I personally think it's a massive risk to go with either of them.
Right. I'm not going to lie, I had Darwin in my team for a little while. I think he lasted about a week. Just based on the fact that in pre-season, I was noticing it was kind of a Salah-Darwin combo with the goals quite a lot, developing a nice little partnership. I'd also heard that he was a lot more composed in front of goal. Looking at Chelsea, I think, who were defensively frail last year and haven't made huge changes.
They look better defensively, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Much better.
And then against Bournemouth, if Darwin starts, that could be anything. And then also, I think against us, he scored against us. Like if we
didn't Bournemouth beat Liverpool 1-0 last year though.
They won 7-0 in the corresponding fixture when Scott Parker was there.
Was it?
Oh, I thought that was a 7-0. Yeah, where they absolutely destroyed them and pulled them apart. But that was I think that was the same time as when Scott Parker though had turned around and like essentially thrown in the towel of the season.
Yeah, I might just be wrong, to be honest. I might even be thinking of Nottingham Forest or something.
I think they might have most recently beaten them. I think you might be right though. I think in the corresponding fixture, I think they might have won 1-0. If I'm right. I think we might both be correct there. Maybe.
Yeah, Bournemouth beat them 1-0 at Anfield, wasn't it? I think. Oh no, it was at home. It was at home. So is this game at Anfield? Is it?
Yeah. I think it's Bournemouth at home. Yeah, first game of the season at Anfield against Bournemouth. Which, if he's going without Salah or a Liverpool attacker, then hide behind the sofa. I think.
But it's just 1 week. That's all. You can't have everyone, and it's just 1 week. And do you want to disrupt what else? Because yes, Núñez could go wild and Salah could go wild in 1 week. But what can whoever else you've got do over look at it over 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks? Like who's going to get the most if you tally them? That's how I'd look at it personally.
Yeah, 100%. And I think one thing I will say is if you're sitting there without any Liverpool attackers, without a strategy of being able to get them, if you're sitting there watching the Chelsea-Liverpool match and Salah and Núñez both get a brace or both kind of get a goal and an assist, and then you look and they've got Bournemouth the following week at home, every single person is going to be ripping up their team, taking -4s, clambering to get them in, and you can put money on it. It'll happen. So I think safety wise and keeping your head and keeping you cool wise, I think I would have at least one of, and just cross your fingers essentially. Honestly, I think I would. Like, I don't have Trent, but I definitely want one Liverpool attacker in my team, whether that's paying the premium to get a bit of safety with Salah or thinking, right, I'm going to take a bit of a punt here now that you can't get Jesus in your team, and put in Darwin and hope he starts. Either that or he's getting 30 minutes. Like, you know what I mean? But anyway, we'll move on. So we've already talked about Isak a little bit, so we'll move on a little bit from that. Mitrovic looks like he's going, grabbing some money and having a well-deserved kind of retirement fund built for him up in Saudi Arabia and joining Maxi along the way. Ivan Toney is also not up for suggestion.
You missed out on Nkunku, man.
Well, I was going backwards as well because Toney's more expensive than both of them, so we've lost track of all the. Tony's like 8 million.
Right. I was going to say, why are you talking about Ivan Toney?
But I missed him, yeah, but he's still 0.2% owned somehow. Clearly they're bots or something.
These are the people that don't have Haaland, guaranteed.
Yeah, they've not got Haaland, but got Ivan Toney instead. Absolute fools. Nkunku, slightly injured, but is he worth it? Because we can talk about both Chelsea options, to be honest, because Nico Jackson's 7 million as well, isn't he?
Yeah. So Nkunku's yellow flagged, which is magic, because people just get away from him, and I'm going to have him. He's just too good. Scores goals while he's playing on the left, striker in the 10. I don't think he's going to play on the right. Yeah, he's a fox in the box, Matt. We know him from the Champions League game oh so well.
Not personally.
You never owned him in the Champions League game, though? No.
I mean, like, we don't know him personally.
I do. Best pals. He said he's fine. Texted us. Fine. I'll find out. Got a yellow flag just for you. Yeah. So basically, Jackson's going to be the one that's going to run the channels, do all the doggy work, Jackson will be the 9. I think Jackson's going to start against Liverpool first game. Could be dynamite Jackson in that game because Liverpool will play a high line and he's just going to run behind. But Nkunku's the one that's going to finish the ball in the box. He's always there. That's where his best position is, inside the box, whether he arrives late, whether he's playing on the shoulder, whether he's got to come in from wide. He's not a Timo Werner. He's not a Jadon Sancho. He's not a Sebastian Haller. Like, he is a player that has done it in the Champions League on a consistent basis, consistently outscores his XG. He's done it in the Bundesliga consistently as well, which I appreciate. Well, Werner did. But Werner never really did it in the Champions League. Whenever he played in the Champions League, he looked a little bit lost. Nkunku isn't that. Nkunku scored a hat-trick against Man City a few years ago. He's a very, very good player. And if he's yellow flagged or on the bench for match day 1 against Liverpool, it's just going to be magic. Because no one will want him. Everyone will get rid of him before the season starts. And I've got no intention of playing against Liverpool anyway. I've got him in my team at the minute and he sat on my bench for the first game.
Shut up, man. You're not benching 7.5 million in his first game for the... the first game for the club in the Premier League, where he's probably going to be the most motivated to score these goals.
I don't
against
think,
another
I don't think
like,
so.
league challenger.
He's also playing against Liverpool, one of the best teams in the league.
Potentially, I don't know. I don't know how comfortable I would feel doing that.
Do you not remember that time when I benched Salah or Son or something? It worked an absolute treat. I'm sure you were the only person I messaged about it. This is a good couple of years ago now. And you were just like, I don't know how you can do that. But because after that, they've got West Ham away. Then they've got Luton at home, Forest at home, Bournemouth away, Villa at home. Villa aren't the best away team in the world. Fulham away and Burnley away up until a wild card. So, yeah, I need Nkunku for every single one of those fixtures, please. And if that means I've got to bench him for one game when my other 11 currently are all absolute mustard with much better fixtures, I don't care. I had to bench someone. But I've got a team for 8 weeks and Nkunku isn't the best player for that first game week, but he's going to be one of the best players for the following 7. And I just don't want to book in a transfer when otherwise I'd have to bench one of my other players. Like I'd have to bench a Brighton player against Luton, or I've already benched me Brentford players and they're playing at home to Spurs. I'd have to bench Arsenal players. Why would I want to do that? Or I've got triple Man City. I want to bench them. First game of the season against who? They got Burnley or something. Yeah,
Burnley away. Away.
Like, just absolutely not. I'm not benching Brian Mbeumo when he's not playing against any fullbacks. It's Spurs. And every Spurs fan's like, yes, Brentford are scoring. So, yeah, and Nkunku can sit on my bench. I don't have any issues with that whatsoever. And if he's injured and he's got to come off the bench for Chelsea, and everyone knows he is, but he's going to be fit for match day 2, whatever, game week 2, that's perfect for me because people are going to have to take hits to get him in. They're not going to have him, and he's going to become a differential if he's still yellow flagged.
Brilliant, yeah, and it's going to be a case of, because I'm looking and I'm thinking, do I have 3 strikers? Do I have 2 strikers? You sound like you're really set, whereas I'm still very much up in the air with how many midfielders I want and how that correlates to how many forwards I want and how much money I want to put into it. Because I'm eyeing up Darwin, I'm eyeing up Nkunku, I'm also eyeing up Nico Jackson. That, like you say, he's going to run the channels. 2 goals, 3 assists in pre-season. Looks really lively. Looks like somebody actually who'd be quite, as somebody who like you want to just enjoy watching. Like people own St. Maximin for years who didn't have any interest in Newcastle just because he was exciting to watch as an FPL owner. Same thing for Nico Jackson. I think he looks like he's going to be involved in everything. So yeah, and another one of those players that I'm looking at is Alvarez, because if he gets solid minutes at 6.5 million alongside Haaland, he's got those first few games. If he's playing the minutes, he's going to get the goals.
I don't think he's going to play it.
I mean, I don't. This is the thing. He's not in my team at the minute because I don't think he's going to play. I'm eyeing him up. that community shield, like you say, will be a huge indicator as to whether I kind of go for it or not with it. But I wouldn't feel comfortable. Man City's hard enough to predict without trying to get both Man City strikers into your team.
Yeah, just go Haaland and then pick your poison for the midfielder. Like,
It's got to be Foden. It's got to be hot. Yeah.
Foden or Grealish, and if Foden's the risk in terms of minutes, Foden's high risk, high reward. Grealish is low risk, low reward, basically.
Perfect.
So Alvarez, I'd stay away from. If Haaland ever gets injured, he's just coming straight into my team as my 6.5 million forward, and then I'll buy 100% just buy Kane or Salah or both.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think because we're getting towards the kind of back end of things now where there's a little bit less interest, if you are putting a lot of money into your midfield, maybe you've got Salah, maybe you've got Salah and Trent and Haaland, you might be looking at some budget options in terms of a striker. Sadly, there's no 4.5 options as of yet that have kind of appeared.
Yeah.
Normally we've had like Greenwood or, I mean, say his name quietly because he's still a naughty boy in my eyes. But, and there's been other 4.5 million strikers of choice, I think, in the past. At the moment, there isn't any. However, the likes of Ferguson, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, if you're mental, Wissa from Brentford, if you don't want Brian Mbeumo and you want Wissa instead, who looks like he's going to be playing through the middle for Brentford, or João Pedro at 5.5 million, who looked really involved for Brighton. Is there any of those that are stand out for you at the minute? Anyone, like, obviously really briefly, just to give people an option?
So I've got one, because he's in my team, rogue pick. But I'll say my rogue pick in a moment. I think Wissa is a good pick, but I just think Mbeumo's better. So double up, or, you know, I think everyone wants either Mbeumo or Matoma, and then Wissa or João Pedro, basically. Like, and then you go for one Brighton, one Brentford. I think that's what a lot of people want to do. I personally think Mbeumo and João Pedro is a much better combination than Wissa and Matoma. And Mbeumo's on penalties as well. But Wissa is a really good player. Got some good points at the end of the season when he was playing through the middle, but he can play on the left. So I think it's pretty nailed. Brentford do have a new striker. Can't remember his name. And they, like, Brentford fans really rate him. Can't remember his name. He's like meant to be absolutely rapid.
It's something like Shardy or something.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. I've not seen much of him. I don't know enough about him.
I literally just seen him in a couple of those pre-season games, and he looks really good. But I still think, like, they're the three. I can't see anyone else sort of, like, really taking their spots. So you could go with those. So João Pedro is someone that I am looking at as my third striker. Again, I think he's a bit of low risk, low reward. I want to go for the Phil Foden of Brighton's attack, the high risk, high reward. Danny Welbeck. 6 million. Been starting most of the preseason games, scored goals at the back end of last season every time he played. Dennis Undav looks like he's off now. So it's basically João Pedro can't play up front, but he's likely going to be in behind on the wing. So it's Welbeck versus Ferguson, and Ferguson, I think, played 190 minutes all of last season. Like,
he hasn't played in pre-season yet, has he?
Yeah, so, like, not that I've seen.
No, I don't think he has. I don't think he's played a minute pre-season yet.
So Danny Welbeck, who genuinely did all right at the back end of last season, I'm just having a little look.
I think you're onto something. I think he's on pens as well, isn't he, Welbeck? Or is it Gross?
Yeah, because McAllister is gone. So McAllister was the pen taker.
Yeah, Pascal Gross takes pens.
Pascal Gross will take them as well. So it depends on if Pascal Gross is on the pitch. If Gross is on the pitch, he'll take them. But I think Welbeck's the third pen taker. But yeah, because he didn't play loads last year, obviously. But it just so happened that when he did, he got goals and assists. So I just think...
Are you going to talk me into buying Danny Welbeck?
But again, if you want to be safe, go João Pedro. Like, that's the safe pick, and João Pedro's 0.5 cheaper. But I think the rest of my team is super template, basically. So I just want to take one little punch somewhere to try and gain a little bit of an edge. That third striker spot, I just don't feel I'm going to really lose out on, because it's Nkunku versus Watkins, essentially, and Isak. It's like was Jesus. So it's like they're in their own little thing. But then it's like it's all of those third striker spots, really. And I just don't think I'm going to lose loads of points if I did go for him and it didn't go well. In terms of these fixtures, in case anyone's wondering, Daniel, what on earth are you talking about? Luton at home, Wolves away, West Ham at home are the first three. And at 6 million, when they've got Newcastle at home and Man United away, I can just bench him. If he looks like he's not playing, I can just bench him. They've got Bournemouth at home, 6, and then not very good, so I can just bench him. If he's being great, I can keep him throughout my wild card because the fixtures get better. If he's being crap, I can just get rid of him on a wild card. He's 6 million, like I care. If João Pedro looks like he's doing better, I can go down to João Pedro easier than I can go up to Welbeck if he's the one that fires. Because I think we've both got much of a muchness in terms of how well they could do. But if I've got João Pedro on my team, it's going to be more difficult if Welbeck goes off to get him than the other way around. If João Pedro just bangs in the first 2 games, Welbeck's looking crap, Ferguson's on, I'll just easy swap.
You're talking a lot of sense and I don't like it. So it's looking, for me, based on that conversation, I'm looking probably more likely to go to a 3-4-3 than a 3-5-2 and having the likes of Mbeumo or Mbumo, whatever you want to call him, as my fourth midfielder. And
Who is he a fifth midfielder?
At the moment, my midfield's looking likely to be Rashford, Saka, Salah, Mbumo, and Martinelli.
Good.
And then I've got Haaland and João Pedro as a front two, but my defense is awful.
Okay.
But we'll talk about, because at the minute this is all massively subject to change. We will be talking. So I think we'll kind of segue nicely into that. Next week will be the last episode before the season starts. So tune in next time because we'll be talking about what will most likely to be our final drafts before the season starts. So if you've watched all of these episodes so far, you'll have heard us talking about the way our team looks at the moment. That's obviously evolved over the weeks as we've talked about different options, listened to other content that's out there. The next episode will be us kind of making those final decisions and maybe kind of critiquing and discussing thinking points that we might kind of have before we lock in those teams ahead of that first week. So with that in mind, I mean, Danny Welbeck, mate, I think that's a fantastic kind of thing to end on because that's got me thinking massively. Tune in next time to see if we both end up with Danny Welbeck in our teams. I think one of us actually might end up with it.
All about the remaining pre-season games, isn't it? That's what it's about. Like, if he's starting those pre-season games, I'd rather have Danny Welbeck than Mitoma.
Yep, and I think those final pre-season games and the Community Shield will massively shape what our teams look like in 100%. This next episode, 100%. So tune in next time for that. Obviously, if you think Danny Welbeck's a good pick, post it in the comments. If you think Dan's an absolute fool, pop it in the comments. Don't forget to give the video a like. Give us any suggestions you think about those.
1 million comments now.
A million Danny Welbeck comments.
Comment if they think I'm a fool. 1 million comments.
Let us know if you're going to go with Kane. Let us know if you're going to have any Liverpool attackers in there as well. Whether you think Darwin or Gakpo is going to start. But yeah, obviously comment away, like away, subscribe. Become a member if you want. £2.99 a month. You also get access to the Telegram group, and we have our own members mini league for FPL too, so we can kind of have our own little competitions and little kind of spats in that Telegram group as well. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, and enjoy the rest of the football for the rest of pre-season. Bye.
Bye everyone.